Imagine if your search engine actually felt like a conversation, instead of just that endless list of links.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the battle brewing between ChatGPT search and Google.
And it's getting interesting because Europe's new digital laws might just throw a wrench into the works, really change how this plays out.
Exactly. We've been digging into this to figure out what it all means for you.
So today we're looking at how ChatGPT search is popping up as a Google competitor, how they're fundamentally different approaches,
Right.
and crucially, how the European Union's Digital Services Act, the DSA, could really influence things.
Our mission really is to unpack the strengths and weaknesses of both and see how these EU rules might, tip the balance.
And we're drawing on some recent comparisons, specifically some practical tests between the two in Europe, and also an analysis of ChatGPT search's growth over there.
Yeah, there's one comparison with 7 specific tests: news, tech questions, shopping, local stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And another piece focusing on that rapid European growth and what the DSA could mean for OpenAI.
Okay, so let's dive in. What are the core differences in how they actually work based on what we've seen?
Well, Google is, the giant we all know. Massive index, incredible speed. It's really strong with real-time information, news, local info, that kind of thing.
Right. It's built for speed and breadth. It gives you tons of links, resources.
Mm-hmm.
For shopping, it's got real-time prices, availability. Local search uses maps, just direct actions like call or directions. It's very action-oriented.
It's that familiar wall of blue links, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Now, ChatGPT search, it's different. It's built around a conversational interface.
Yeah, it tries to give you synthesized summaries, maybe more personalized recommendations. It focuses more on understanding and explaining things.
And it's ad-free, which is a big point. Plus, it cites its sources quite transparently.
We saw this clearly in one example about Ukraine news. Google did its usual thing, loads of links, news outlets, official sites.
Standard Google results.
Exactly. But ChatGPT search, it gave a summary straight away, quoted sources directly.
Okay, though the source noted it leaned heavily on Le Monde in that specific test, maybe showing a partnership or a smaller source pool.
Possibly, yeah. That's a potential limitation. But for getting a quick grasp, it was arguably faster, more contextualized.
Then there was the technical query, Bluetooth low energy.
Oh, right. Very different outcomes there, too. Google offered loads of technical documents, specialized articles, really comprehensive, but,
You got to wade through it.
You do. ChatGPT search took a more pedagogical approach. It tried to break down the concept, explain it step by step.
So that points to where ChatGPT seems to shine, doesn't it? Understanding complex ideas, getting quick updates, maybe less biased product comparisons if it's drawing from tech reviews.
Exactly. And technical troubleshooting, guiding you through steps. Even personalized local suggestions seem promising, though it lacks Google's real-time data, like, is this place open now?
Right. That's where Google still clearly has the advantage, that immediacy. Breaking news as it happens, you probably still go to Google first.
For sure. The speed, the sheer size of its index, and like you said, very specific real-time stuff. Show me vegan restaurants open near me right now. Google's built for that.
So what are the main limitations we're seeing with ChatGPT search then?
Well, that reliance on maybe a smaller set of sources, like the Ukraine example, could mean missing some perspectives. There was also an example of it giving outdated weather info, highlighting that potential lag with real-time data, and very niche queries. Things buried deep on the web. Google's huge index probably still finds those better, and it can be slower.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly to Europe, because ChatGPT search has apparently seen massive growth there. How does this Digital Services Act, the DSA, come into play?
That growth is really key. We're talking from about 11 million monthly active users to over 41 million in just 6 months in Europe. That's huge.
Wow, okay.
And the DSA has this category, very large online platforms, or VLOPs. The threshold is 45 million monthly active users in the EU.
So ChatGPT search is knocking on the door of becoming a VLOP. What happens then? What changes?
If it crosses that line, it triggers much stricter rules. We're talking things like mandatory external audits, having to share certain data with researchers.
Okay.
And a big one, giving users much more control over personalized recommendations, including the ability to just switch them off entirely.
And I gather the EU isn't messing around with enforcement. The penalties are serious.
Oh, absolutely. Fines can go up to 6% of the company's global turnover. For a company like OpenAI, that could be an enormous number.
6% of global. Wow.
Yeah. And if there are repeated serious breaches, they could even face a temporary ban from operating in the EU.
And this comes at a time when some studies are already raising questions about, well, the reliability of ChatGPT search, right?
That's a critical point. Concerns have been raised about how accurately it identifies its sources sometimes, and maybe more worryingly, its ability to distinguish real news from fake news or misinformation.
Which becomes even more important under the kind of scrutiny the DSA brings.
Precisely. If you're designated a VLOP, the expectations around content moderation and transparency go way up.
So, looking at the big picture, it feels like maybe they aren't direct competitors just yet, more like different tools for different jobs.
That seems to be the consensus from the analysis, yeah. For now, they feel more complementary. You might use ChatGPT search to understand something complex, get a summary.
Like for background research or explanation.
Exactly. And then maybe use Google for the deep dive, finding specific sources or taking immediate action. Although
Google still absolutely dominates the search market overall.
No question. But there was a survey, I think, from 2024 showing maybe 8% of users actually preferred ChatGPT search. That's not insignificant traction.
It shows there's an appetite for this different approach.
Yeah.
But then there's a money question. How does OpenAI make ChatGPT search sustainable if it stays ad-free?
That's the million-dollar or maybe billion-dollar question. The ad-free experience is a major draw for users, but it leaves a big gap in their potential business model compared to Google.
And what about websites, content creators?
Yeah.
If people get their answers directly in ChatGPT search, do they even click through anymore?
That's a huge concern for the ecosystem, yeah. It could definitely impact website traffic if users feel they've gotten the complete answer without needing to visit the original source. It changes the dynamic.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Key takeaways.
Well, ChatGPT search is definitely a compelling alternative. Its conversational AI is strong for explaining things, for summarizing. Big pluses there.
But Google holds on to its strengths. Real-time data, that massive index, speed, still the king for certain tasks.
Right. And hovering over all this, especially in Europe, is the Digital Services Act. If ChatGPT search hits that VLOP threshold, it could face significant new regulations and costs. That could really shape its future there.
It definitely adds another layer of complexity to this whole competition.
Absolutely. Which leads to a final thought, perhaps for you listening. As this AI-powered search evolves and the rules around it change, how will you change how you look for information?
Yeah, what role will these different kinds of search play in how you learn, how you discover things online? Something to ponder. This has been a deep dive from Le Podcast de Philippe.
And hey, if you found this useful, please help us reach 1,000 subscribers.